Good evening, everybody. This is kind of a surprise. My daughter started some soccer practice, and it's like an hour and a half, so I've got some time to kill. So of course, why not? Just get back in the car while I'm waiting. That is the truth, by the way. Like, my wife didn't kick me out of the house or anything. So I've got some time to kill, and so I thought now would be actually a good time to kind of take a survey from everybody. And this will be kind of interesting the way this goes. But so I'm curious, what is your number one struggle as a dog owner? And I would like to know, this is just kind of from my own curiosity, because I would really like to see if there's a consensus out there as to what is the struggle, to see if there's something that I can put out content-wise that can at least address some of this for everybody. I don't know, come up with whatever it is for you and your situation. So this isn't so much a like, what do I do if? I want this to be, hey, this is honestly my biggest struggle. Is it body language? Is it crating? So this is good. Sherry pipes in. First one, barking, endless barking. Number one struggle. Perfect. This is, I've been thinking a lot about this as far as like what I want this year to kind of be like for me, and as far as what people are going through at home. I want to find out what people are struggling with the most. I think honestly, if we asked people a couple of years ago what that struggle with is, it'd be a little bit different than what it is now, because we're dealing with COVID stuff, right? And we're not getting out as much. Our dogs aren't getting out as much. So I would love to know from you, what is your number one struggle as a dog owner? Karen says, still leash pulling when we walk. And this is great. I'm looking for brutal honesty here. I don't want you to think there's no judging going on here whatsoever. Jill says, overexcitement around other dogs, friendly but annoying. Yep, and that's Jill. That's actually very common from what we've seen with our private lessons and such. So that's good. I love to hear this kind of stuff. I honestly want to see if there's some common ground here among everybody as to what is that struggle. So Daniel, aggressive, fearful of other dogs. Yep. Jillian says overexcitement and leash pulling. Good. So this is another overexcitement one. And honestly, for anybody that's watching this, that's not watching this live, when this is maybe a day or two down the road, I would still love to know. So just because you may not be watching this live, please still comment, because this is stuff that I actually want to know about. What is it that I can do to help eventually, whatever this majority consensus is. So I would love to know. I want people to interact with this, because this is the only way that I can understand what everybody's struggling with, so I can understand how I can help you more with the content for what I can put out. Recall is a good one too. That's always a popular one. Always a popular one. So that's good from Jen there that said that. I think, in a lot of my lessons, the lesson that I had today with Hershey, if you guys read the post that I put up, oh my gosh, I felt so good walking out of that lesson. And I think we all did, right? Hershey's parents did. I did. Hershey did. It was great. Dustin says whining and crying at every noise that comes by our house. That is definitely a popular one as well. Definitely popular. I think timid, insecure behavior, afraid of wind, loud noises, going outside alone. Yep. So this is like in the sensitivity land, if you will, being very sensitive to things, which is great. So this is good, you guys. I really want, I want to know what is that one struggle that bothers you the most on a daily basis? What is it? Is it something that happens when you wake up in the morning? Is it something when you go to bed? Is there something during the walk that's just like, ugh, I can't even deal with this anymore? I would love to know what that is. So please share this with me, because there could be some stuff here that I've put out video of, or something along those lines, that can help everybody out. I think that would be fantastic. So please let me know what it is. What is your struggle? Is it feeding time? Is it crating time? Is it bedtime? Daniel says, I dread walks. I can't tell you actually how many people dread going and taking their dog for a walk. They dread it. Amanda says, barking at other dogs and people and being overexcited. Absolutely. There's been a lot of times I've sat down with people in my private lessons, and we taught, if they come in for leash work or leash walking, and I ask them how many times you've been on a walk before, or how many have you been on lately? Not many, because they dread it so much, and it's happening a lot. And I hate to have people dread taking their dogs for a walk. That is not fun. Joan says, Beulah's first morning bolt out of the kennel is horrendous. Scratching, barking, spinning. You can barely get the door open. Yeah, see, so there's crate stuff too. Walking on leash without pulling, impulse squirrel chasing. To be honest, walking 3 dogs in an environment with people we don't know. This is great. You guys see, here's the thing. Or in new environments, we walk by our house, but that's really it. This is the thing about this, is that there are a lot of people struggling. I had a Zoom call this morning, and we were talking about recall, and the dog owner said, am I alone in this? Like, I feel very alone in this. And that's unfortunate, because I had to tell her that there was actually a lot of people dealing with the same issue of recall. We've already had it mentioned once or twice here, and to the point where her dog had killed a chicken, like a couple of them. And so that's some deep stuff, but it's also stuff that we can hopefully eventually help her with, and help the dog make different decisions. But to me, it was important for me to tell her that she is not alone. And this is the thing that I want to tell you guys right now too, is you are not alone. Everybody that's mentioned all of this, anything here, whatever you've mentioned, I can tell you that you are not alone with this, that you are one of many, many, many people that are dealing with the same thing. You're dealing with the same issues that other dog owners are dealing with, and that is okay. I want you guys to understand that it's okay that you're struggling. And I realize that, sometimes dog training is expensive, and I understand that. I wish I could do everything for free, but I would like to, with you guys being honest and you guys posting your answers here, this gives me ideas of what I can do to answer questions or do podcasts about, so I can eventually, even if there's one tidbit that helps one person out there and it saves you a little bit of money, then so be it. Then that's great. That's it. If we could do that, that would be great. Heidi says, eating household items, many shoes. See, that the chewing and destructive chewing is, you're not alone with that. There are a lot of people that are dealing with that type of thing. Counter surfing. There's a lot of people dealing with counter surfing. There's a lot of people dealing with anxiety, especially separation. I'm telling you, separation anxiety is coming, and it's going to hit hard, like hard. Yeah, so Regina, this is a great question. How do you get the other person in the house to follow the rules concerning the dog's behavior? So look, you guys have seen me, like 2 weeks ago, I had George Cockrell on. He's mentored me a little bit on and off here for a number of years. He had a great saying. I'm going to give him all the credit in the world, because I've asked him the same question, because there's times where I've sat down in a lesson and one partner will say one thing and the other will say something opposite of what they think should happen. And so this is what he said. So Regina, if this is you and you need to talk to your spouse about this and about the dogs, then you sit down, you have this conversation, and you say, look, if you're not going to help me, then please don't hinder me. That's it. Fair, straight. Lay it out straight. Don't sugarcoat this. If you're not going to help me, don't hinder me. Don't do anything to sabotage what I'm trying to do with the dogs. If you're the one that's doing the homework, if you're the one that's doing the research, if you're the one that's trying to make the effort to change things at home, then you should be the one that should be able to, in my mind, help, I don't want to say control, but kind of be a decision maker, if you will, as far as the training perspective or the training aspect of your dogs. So if you're not going to help, don't hinder. That's all I'm asking. I mean, which is actually saying I just need some space, right? Let me do my thing with the dog. Let me create some space here, so I don't have to worry about this being undone. That what I do isn't being undone. So sometimes that right there, that can be your biggest struggle, is what your spouse is doing with the dog compared to what you are doing with the dog. And that's important to remember, because I can definitely tell you, look, I've had couples almost get a divorce in front of me because they each thought something different of what the dog, it actually came down to freedom. And I got uncomfortable in that lesson. I got very, very uncomfortable. Their discussion, it turned into an argument. It got heated. It was just shy of yelling at each other. And this was a dog training lesson. Like, I will never, ever, ever forget that lesson at all. Feels like it was about a couple weeks ago. In reality, it was probably 5 or 6 years ago, somewhere in that ballpark. So honestly, that struggle of not having everybody in the family all in the same boat, same path, same goal is very, very, very common. So we've had a number of new people coming in here. So please tell me. I want to hear what you have to say. Be honest. There's no judgment going on here. You guys, and I hope you understand this by now. I've been doing this long enough. I don't feel like I judge people when it comes to what's going on with your dog. So please don't think that whatever you write here, no, Karen, it wasn't you guys. You were far from it. Far, far from it. But this is the thing. Your honesty here, this helps out a lot. And this is important to both me. I want you to understand that. But I'm not going to look at this like, oh, there's somebody else with excitement. They have no idea what's going on. It doesn't work that way for me. I'm more than happy to educate people about excitement or anxiety or crating or leash walking, you know, socializing, whatever the case may be. You know, here's the other thing too, is the one thing that hasn't been said yet, and I don't know how long I've been doing this, 10 minutes or whatever. The one thing that hasn't been said yet is understanding your dog's body language. And I think that's important too, because that is actually the key. This is the key to everything, is understanding their language and understanding what they are actually trying to communicate. Most of the time, we're actually trying to tell our dogs to be quiet, right? That this is where all of our corrections come from. But we never actually let our dogs express themselves enough, because in this expression, it might be a bark, a whine, a cry, but to us, it's noise and we want it to stop, right? And that's where we get in trouble. I think that's where we get into a lot of trouble, is that we don't realize how a dog needs to express themselves, how they need to communicate with us so that we hear them and understand. And then we can work with them once we understand what they're saying. So, but excitement kind of seems to be the consensus here with everybody tonight. So look, if you just popped on, I want to know, what is your number one struggle? What are you struggling with the most right now with your dog? What is that struggle? Feeding time, crate, anxiety, counter surfing, jumping, humping, you name it. What is it? This is what we're here for. I want to understand what your issue is with your dog. What's that struggle where you're just like, oh, this is annoying. I don't even know what to do. I don't know how to do it. I want to know. This is, because I will tell you right now, like I said before, you are not alone in this. You are not alone with struggling with your dog. There's a reason why there's hundreds of thousands of dog trainers in this world. I should say probably in this country. If I could send my husband for lessons. I do have an amorous lab when he meets new dogs. Yep. It's excitement, right? It's excitement. And look, here's the thing too, is when it comes time to have things open back up and we can all be back out in public again, we're going to be dealing with a lot of this excitement. We're going to be dealing with a lot of anxiety. We're going to be dealing with dogs that are overreacting to seeing other dogs, and we're also going to have dogs that are scared and nervous of other dogs. And there's going to be stranger danger for some dogs with looking and watching other people and seeing them. So there is going to come a time when everything is going to kind of hit the fan for a number of dogs and a number of people. And that's going to be tough for many. And so I'm hoping, here's the crazy part of this too. I actually meant to talk about this during when Matt and I taped our chit chat this week. So you guys know I'm doing this beta program, okay? Or you may not, I don't know. I haven't introduced all the dogs yet, but the program is full. So I have to get a number of crates that are going to fit into this van. Do you have husband lessons? I do not. I'm still trying to learn how to be a husband. So I got a number of crates that I'm putting in this van. And so here's the thing. I'm looking on Amazon for a 36-inch crate, right? 36 inches long. Do you realize it's actually very, very difficult to find a 36-inch crate on Amazon? I even checked a couple other websites for the same size crate. Some of them want like an astronomical number, like $250, which I'm not paying that for a crate. But I started thinking, I'm like, wow, they're out of crates. Does this really mean that all these people that got dogs during COVID, during quarantine, are actually getting crates? This is amazing news to me, because why else would these crates be sold out and just that size? Okay, maybe it's a manufacturer thing. I don't know. I didn't think about it that way, but I thought, man, people are starting to use crates. These dogs are getting. I'd like to think, I'm trying to think of the positive outlook here. People are actually doing some crate work with their dogs during this whole COVID thing. I thought it was wonderful. So what turned out to be a negative for me, as I looked at it, I'm like, wait, this is actually a good thing. So it for me, it was exciting. I don't know, in a way. Let's see. Daniel says she goes from 0 to 60 in nanoseconds. Heart racing, barking, lunging from asleep sometimes. Doorbell takes many minutes to calm. Yeah, that's that adrenaline pumping, right? And it takes time to come down out of it. I explained to my client today, look, if a dog is not doing anything and then all of a sudden sees somebody, whoop, barks, the whole thing explodes, they can't go from this blood pumping, adrenaline rushing straight down into a meditative state of mind. Boom. They can't. They have to work their way down out of that high, and that takes some time. So think about you when you get the adrenaline pumping. If I said, all right, be calm, go into a meditative state, it's impossible. But yet we expect our dogs to do it, that when we say no, they can just turn it off completely. That's asking a lot of our dogs, especially if it's something that you haven't worked with on them and you haven't trained them on either. So Dustin says we've been avoiding quiet paths because people don't leash their dog. Yeah, when I'm trying to keep my 3 dogs pulling. Yeah, I get it. I mean, Wendy says I have a big field out behind my house that I take my 7-month-old border collie to run. If she doesn't stop when I want her to, she won't. She may run for 10 more minutes or hours. How do I get her to stop and come to me? You got to work on that recall in the house, Wendy. Right now you're in the Super Bowl, and I told my clients that today. You're in the Super Bowl. It's the ultimate excitement environment. You got to practice that where there's nobody around. Absolutely. Debbie says our German Shepherd Bandit barks very loudly in the car. We've about stopped taking her because she barks right in our ears. Yep, that's all that excitement. Same thing. Holes in the sheetrock walls from when we are not home. Dixie is eating the house when we leave her. Anxiety for sure. I'm not sure how to stop it. Crate training, Heidi. Crate training. Deb, crate trained my boy from day one. He loves his crate and he's 2 now. Absolutely. Gemma and May are in their crates probably right now at home. And May's in the crate in here. My dogs are in the crate probably more than you would think at work. It's just a part of their life to me. Daniel says, don't laugh, but I've been practicing yawning at her to calm her. She responds well. That's great. Oh, that's funny. Just don't start panting back at her, Daniel. Then you'll really freak her out, right? Oh my gosh. This is great, you guys. I love hearing these struggles. I've said this a couple of times already. I'm going to say it again. You are not alone. You're not alone at all. There are dog owners all across this country that are dealing with the same exact things that you guys are. The same exact things. So, there's, lunging and barking and aggression and, which I don't think actually anybody has said aggression here. The other thing too, nobody said is like this nervousness or skittishness, fear of men. Hershey came in today. She was supposed to be afraid of men. I didn't do anything to her to make her afraid of me either, and that's a part of respect. Heidi says, how long can they be in a crate? It all depends on how long you work at it, Heidi. Like, we can't just put them into a crate and then leave them. This is something when we teach crating, we actually teach crating so that the first time you crate your dog, you're at home with them. So we have to start short term, while you're home, weekends, days off, and then slowly build up to it. But we also have to drain energy from that dog first before we put them into their new bedroom. I want you to think about the crate as a bedroom for them. This is their resting place. We don't want it to represent anxiety at all. That is not what we want that to represent. We want that to represent downtime, relaxation, quiet time, safe place. You're allowed to just chill out there. That's really what it all boils down to. Just chill out, hang out, just be cool. That's all. So this is great, you guys. This is a lot of information, and I love this. I want to know what your biggest struggle is. So even if you're not watching this live, please tell me, please comment here, wherever you're watching this video, please let me know what your biggest struggle is. Because this, like I said, this could turn into something that I see here could turn into a podcast, and it could turn into a YouTube video. It could turn into an instructional video for the Facebook page here. So every little bit that you can put here is great. This is what we want to know, is what's going on, what's happening in your world that is your biggest struggle with your dog. And it doesn't matter how big your dog is. If it's a teacup Chihuahua or if it's an Irish Wolfhound, like, I want to know what that struggle is. I just want to see if there's a consensus about it. So that's all. That's really the biggest part of it here. So, all right, you guys, here's a good one. The hardest part of training for me is I have 2 siblings at one time to teach. So you have to separate then. Just work one at a time. That's what I would do. I've done it with May and Gemma. Put one in the crate, take the other one outside if you have to. Right? As long as the first one's safe, you're good. Caroline, how do you teach a dog not to chase cars? You get far enough away so that they don't have interest in a car. You have to create a lot of space here. So for you, your number one goal is to find a threshold. How far away do you have to be from moving cars for your dog not to react? Is it 100 yards? We don't know, right? If it's 100 yards, it's 100 yards. So let's say for the sake of ease of doing this tonight, it's 100 yards. Great. 100 yards, let the dog just be there. Just stand there. You don't even need to make your dog sit. But on leash. Just sit there. Wait for your dog to start to chill out. Wait for the mind to start to quiet. Wait for the mind to start to ground itself. You guys, you're going to hear me say this word grounding a lot because I love this term. Let's ground them. Let's get them back to where they need to be. Let's get them grounded. So once your dog's chill at 100 yards, go to 95 yards. Hang out there. If the dog can't handle 95 yards, we're going back to 100 yards. We're going to wait for them to calm down, and then the next time I'm going to go to 98 yards. Do you see? If they can handle 98 yards, we're going to stay there for a little while. We're going to wait for that mind to calm, get grounded. Once it does, now I'm going to try 95 yards. If that doesn't work, we go back to 98 yards. Do you see how this starts to happen little by little by little? It's important to understand this too. And I'm going to leave you with this thought, all right? When you are teaching your dog in this context, that's funny, Joan. Eleanor's looking for me. She can hear me. When you are teaching your dog this drill, if you will, in this context, we have to treat this like your dog is a 5-year-old and you just introduced what 2 + 2 is to your dog, to that 5-year-old, to that 5-year-old brain. I want you to look at it from this point of view. If this dog at 100 yards is chilled out and we walk to 98 yards and they're not chilled out and we bring them back to 100, okay, you don't understand this yet, and that's okay. So Alyssa asked, what's the best way to tell visually if the mind is calm? I want to see those ears be relaxed. I want to see maybe the nose up in the air trying to sniff the air. I want to see all those wrinkles on the forehead or on their head in between their ears go away. I want to see the tail relaxed. I want to see the body fluid in how they breathe or how they move. I don't want to see any staring. I don't want to see any hyper focus. I don't want to see any excitement. I want to see this dog be a dog in an environment where they can just exist and they don't feel like they have to worry about keeping track of everything in their world all at the same time. I want them to get grounded and just chilled out. Then we go to 98 yards. So we just taught them 2 + 2, which is you chilling out, equals 4. We move closer. Now, if you taught a 5-year-old what 2 + 2 was, and they said 4, great. And then you waited an hour and asked them what's 2 + 2, and they go, oh, I don't remember. We're not going to correct them and go, what the hell are you thinking? Why can't you get this? I just told you what it was. But yet we use that state of mind when we're talking to our dogs, because we think that our dog should understand something the very first time that we show them. We think that when we put the leash on the dog and we take 5 steps and they're great for 2 seconds and then they start pulling, we think, I just showed you. Why don't you understand this? I just showed you what 2 + 2 is. And why don't you understand it? I don't understand. What am I doing wrong? Why are you do you see what happens here? But you're not going to yell at the 5-year-old. You're not going to get frustrated with the 5-year-old. You're going to be very, very patient because you understand that yelling at a 5-year-old is not going to help the situation. Yelling at a 5-year-old is going to make it worse. Yelling at a 5-year-old is going to cause them to shut down. Why would they even answer you now? Why would they even listen to you and how you teach? Why would the dog do what you want to do if you're getting frustrated with the dog? Why would the dog do what you want them to do when you're raising your voice to them? Do you see how this works? So if we go back to 100 yards, 2 + 2, the brain is grounded. We're doing great. Body language is there. 2 + 2 is 4. We're moving closer. Then at 98 yards, we wait for that brain to quiet down. Get grounded. Great. 2 + 2 is 4. We go closer. 96 yards. You see how this works? Now we can start to get the ball rolling. If the dog blows up, okay, you got 2 + 2 is wrong. Let's just go back a little bit because I want to teach you again what 2 + 2 is. Do you see? So it's okay to work a dog around its threshold. Be patient, be kind, be respectful. Don't yank on the leash. Don't pop on the leash. Do you understand? Don't yell at the dog. They haven't had any time to learn what 2 + 2 is. The dog that chases cars has never been taught not to chase cars. You see? So Sarah, this is great. My number one struggle is managing my own expectations. Okay, I'm going to write this down after. Your expectations. What are your expectations of your dogs? Right? In this context, let's go back to this example of chasing cars. What are your expectations? Are your expectations right now, and Alyssa, I'm not pointing a finger at you. I'm saying I'm saying like this is everybody. What are your expectations of your dog right now for the dog that chases cars? What's your expectations if you're sitting on the sidewalk? If your expectations of your dog right then are to be chill and not ever chase cars again, you got to get off the planet that you're on and come back and think, okay, that is way too much. I will never get that from my dog right now because they're going to blow up. Great. So your expectation should be, let's go back to the threshold. Where's the threshold? Is it 400 yards? I don't know. Your dog is the only one that can determine the threshold. You can't. So we have to understand what our expectations are, what their threshold is, and then, and only then, can we now start working towards it with teaching 2 + 2 is 4. See this? Expectations first. What's the threshold? And then how patient are we going to be teaching 2 + 2 is 4? That's a great little system. If you can put that all together and put that together on a regular basis to teach your dog about chasing cars and create that new way of being for your dog, create that pattern for them to follow, now you have something that you can lean on. Now you have something substantial that you can say, okay, what are my expectations right now? Do I honestly expect my dog can handle any car going by? UPS truck, 18-wheeler, FedEx guy, mailman or lady? Can they handle that now? Probably not. But yet we expect them to. It's just like if I expected my daughter to walk out of soccer practice right now, she walks in at a certain skill set. I don't expect her to walk out playing like Pele. Like that's just not realistic. So when we look at expectations, if your number one struggle is what your expectations are, we have to look at it and go, are your expectations actually realistic at this moment, right now? Right now, with what your biggest struggle is your number one struggle your expectation? That Sarah, that was a good one. Your expectation. That might be the biggest one of the night. I think it's important for people to understand what their expectations are compared to what their dog is actually capable of doing. Because that's also important too. We can't set a limit on what we think our dogs can do, because at that point, you're just screwing the whole situation. You're not even giving your dog a chance. If you don't, it's one thing if you don't, let me rephrase this as I think this thoroughly in my head. It's one thing if you expect your dog that chases cars to sit on a sidewalk and watch them all drive by and not react. Okay? That's a biggie. However, if your goal is to sit on the sidewalk and watch all the cars go by, then that's very different. And I hope everybody understands that. Because the goal is something that you can work towards and you can achieve with work. You got to put in the work. Right? There's the saying, nothing changes if nothing changes. That's all there is to it. If we stay status quo, you're going to stay status quo. If you don't change anything, you're not going to... If nothing changes, then nothing changes. That's all there is to it. So think about what your expectations are for your dog. What this number one struggle is right now, what your expectations are. Are your expectations right now currently realistic to what your struggle is? Okay? If they're not realistic, then what do we have to do to achieve that expectation as a goal? What do we do? What can we do to put this up here and be like, this is what we're working at. This is what we're working towards. This is important to me. I want to accomplish this with my dog. Then you can come up with your game plan. All right, what's the threshold? Where do we have to be? And that can look, finding the threshold can be your goal for the day too. And sometimes that environment changes on a daily basis, because your neighbor walks at a different time every day. The dog was loose. The dog's going to be loose tomorrow in the yard, but the neighbor's dog's going to be loose tomorrow in the yard, but this weekend it's going to be in the fenced-in area. That's realistic, you guys. That stuff happens. I know, trust me when I say, I know I live in a controlled setting at work. I understand that. And this is why sometimes it feels like we can make magic happen. So I understand that. But the controlled setting is also sometimes what gives us the ability to help that dog learn what 2 + 2 is. And then it can be reinforced. So I want your goal, if you, with this struggle right now, a lot of you have mentioned excitement. A lot of you have mentioned barking. A lot of you have mentioned lunging. To me, my goal for, or your goal, my goal for you too, is to give yourself a week. I'd like for you to do it in a shorter amount of time, but give yourself a week. Just find out what the threshold is. You don't have to correct your dog. You don't have to reward your dog. Just find out what the dog's threshold is. How far away does the person have to be in order for your dog not to react? How far away does the car have to be in order for the dog not to react? How far does the other dog have to be in order for your dog not to react? What is that distance? If you can do this a few times in the next week and get an idea of some sort of distance, then you are going to understand how this threshold works. And then that's going to clear up, it's really going to clear up your expectations. It's going to clear them up as like, okay, we are a couple of 100 yards away and I actually thought she could do it from 20 feet. I've got some work to do. It can be humbling, okay? If you go back in the podcast and look up my biggest mistake that I made, or my big mistake from last summer, I'm not going to get into it now because you can listen to it as I explained the whole thing. I was humbled, probably more than I ever have been in my dog training career. And at that moment, I knew that I had a lot of work to do with my own dogs. So go back and listen to that at some point if you have time. Because when you learn that your dog now has to be at 200 yards instead of 20 feet from the road, and you're like, damn, I expected a lot more from my dog, and we're a long ways away. Okay. But now you know, and now you've got some work to do. And so now is the time to put in the work, you know? So somebody else just wrote, Wendy, my dog walks great on the leash until we're about 200 yards from my house. She will start lunging at cars. What would you do for that? Find your threshold. If it's 200 yards from your house, that brain at that moment is not quiet anymore. That brain is starting to get more intense and more intense. So for me, at about 300 yards, I'm actually going to watch my dog as I walk, keep an eye on its body language, and find out when things start to perk up, find out when things change. There's a trigger in that moment somewhere between probably 300 yards and 200 yards away where her brain is starting to go elsewhere and she's not grounded anymore. She's too intense. And also, depending on how many friends you have around, I'm not going to get into that. It's going to be too complicated. I would also maybe sit at the 299 yard mark and just sit. And just sit. Or you have to find a different setting to where you can create more space and do it then. Because right now, this is kind of your Super Bowl. This is the most exciting moment for your dog. And exciting in a negative way, right? Because she's not making good decisions. That's what I would do. Find somewhere else to practice first before being in that moment. That's what's most important. So I think this is what's coming out of this as I wrap this up. I want you to find that threshold. I want you to figure out what your expectations are right now. Can you expect your dog that chases cars to be 20 feet from the road? If you expect that, you need to get off the planet that you're on and come back to reality so you can understand. You see? I know that's a little gruff from my end, but it's honestly the truth. It really is. So Kim, one last thing. How can you tell the difference between staring intensively? I don't see anything else. So you guys do this, put the work in the next week. Honestly, going out to find the threshold might take you 10 minutes or 15 minutes. And if you're outside with your dog anyways, why not? You can figure it out. So you guys have a wonderful Thursday night. I will catch you later. I hope you pick something up from this. And I want you to put in the work. Seriously. When nothing changes, right? Put in the work. We'll catch you later.